Hey everybody, welcome back to the next part of our series of mounting a Dead Mount Grouse. If you haven't caught up, please go back and watch the other episodes right from from the harvest through the skinning, the prepping, the posing, putting our wires in here, and getting it this far. I believe we've had 3 other parts, maybe 4, to get it to this phase. But in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to place this tail. We're going to get rid of this tail. It's got damage on there, and we're going to replace it with this tail. We're going to show you how we did that and how we pre-dried this and all of that. So before we do that, folks are probably going to want to know how we did this. What we did here is basically I took that support wire, this goes into a red fox's mouth, through this piece of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, and you can see on the back there, we brought it through there, through the one hole, and we just anchored it with a couple of 1-inch sheetrock screws and our piece of wire with a couple of washers. Real simple. These are custom homemade mounting stands I've had for years. You can see they've been through the mill. They've seen many hours of work. Just a simple little, I believe that's probably like a 5/8 inch nut that was welded onto this pipe right here, and this can adjust your up and down just like that. And this one here, same thing, you loosen that and you can adjust your depth with that one. And we just got a real thin plate up here that we put a couple of screws in to hold our piece of plywood on. Simple, basic, but effective. I use this on a lot of my fish mounts too when I want to spin that fish around, when I got to card out tails and do whatever. I like to do that. And I like to also, when I do a flying grouse, I'll put a piece of driftwood on here and I'll anchor my bird right to the piece of driftwood, just like this would be the back of the driftwood right here and up to the wall. So it works out great. Just little tips. Nice to have the right tools for the project. So anyways, let's start out with this tail. We're gonna remove this right here. We're gonna save these feathers if we can, and we just basically want to take this part off right here. Okay, we're gonna lose the rump feathers here, but in our other tail we have rump feathers, so we're gonna be in good shape. So we're just gonna figure out where we're at right here. Get right in here, and there's the base of the shafts of these feathers right here. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a twist. We start to break that skin loose a little bit. You can see there's the bottom of it right there. Let's just start cutting. Remove some of that. We don't want to take too many feathers off. We just want to get the tail. If you notice in our other series, I'm sure I'm going to get a comment that I didn't clean the base of the tail out enough, but you know, that was the reasoning. You can see there's quite a bit of meat in there still. I had intentions of removing this tail and replacing it with another one. You almost have to cut after you twist a couple of times. Now if you twist this, okay, it should break free pretty easy. Don't want to go crazy on it. You want to destroy your work you've done already. All right. And I had a couple of pins in here, and I'll tell you what those are for in just a minute. There's 2 of them there. All right, and then I'm just going to take my scissors. We're just going to nip that gone. So you can see the difference, the quality of what we're going to have here. This isn't a completely splayed out tail or spanned out, but it's going to do the job for this mount compared to this one. See the difference? I mean, with this one, it's pretty shot up. These feathers would never come back, and you'd have a tail on there that would look like this, you know, kind of ratty. I mean, probably would work, but for the purpose of the beauty of the art, we're going to run this one right here. So we'll get to that part in a minute. But we're going to show you how I dried that tail. And then we'll also get to these 2 pins right here. going to stick them right up here so that I remember to tell you what them are for when we get to that part. Okay. So, what you want to do is, this is a bird that had a nice tail, but it was badly damaged, but it did have a good tail on it. I like to save extra parts and pieces for taxidermy. Means moving skin, and you should have something in there where you can replace body parts too, right? But anyway, what we're going to do here is, yeah, we're going to use this as a replacement tail in another project maybe someday. What we're doing here is we're just going to hold this open, just like this. I got some blue painter's tape up here that we're going to use to help us along in this. We're going to do some preening. Clean this up a little bit and try and get this feather over the top of that one, just like that. All right, then I'm just going to take off my other board over here. I'm going to take some pins. I'm going to pin this tail out. Now you want to get them down low on the shaft of the feathers, right down in this area here. I'm just going to put about 3. Okay, and then you can see where your center feathers are right here. They're just a little bit, they're slightly, a little bit different color. And you want to get those pretty much straight up and down, 12 o'clock. Just like that. I'm going to put 2 here to keep those feathers in place. All right, then I'm going to take a piece of this painter's tape, and I'm going to go across this way, just like this. And the same thing on this side. Only takes a couple minutes to pin a tail out. Now, if this was half dried, this tail, you'd have a hard time opening this up all the way. Obviously, you'd be struggling it, but when they're fresh like this, when you pull them off the bird, it's not dried out. They go into place pretty easy. Okay, what we want to do now is we're just going to hide this little bit. Like I said, I always like to leave my pins down here. If you pin up here, you're going to start breaking shaft feathers and causing some damage, so make sure you keep it down here. There's a little spot here that I'm going to try and hide the best I can with these other feathers. There we go. In a couple of days, I'll take my painter's tape off of this and I'll readjust what I need to adjust. And it might take up to a week, 10 days for this tail to dry completely, but you can go back in a couple of days and adjust whatever you need to. But that just gives you an idea how to pin out another tail. And then you can see this tape has been reused. You can take some of the stickiness off if you had just, taken right off the roll. I always like to do this so that I don't like that gummy residue on the feathers when you go to take it off. So just get most of the stickiness off it and you'll see it stays right on there just like that. And I'll save this painter's tape, probably cheapen out, but you can save it and you can reuse it. Doesn't hurt anything. If that wants to curl on you, just take a couple of these dresser pins and put one on each side just like that. Anyway, you get the basic. A couple of days, you go back in, you can readjust what you want to do, take your tape off, move some of your pins, and then you can go back in and adjust it the way you want. But it gives you an idea how to get the tail opened up. And you're always a tail or two ahead of the project. You don't have to wait for that week or 10 days for that tail to dry, so your finished mount is done. So that's that. Put that away to dry. And back to our project. So, there's our old tail, and there's our new tail. What we're going to do is we're just going to bring this right up here. Probably the camera's going to have to readjust, but I have to get some good light. Work? Too dark?
A little.
Okay, we'll leave it right here then. I was going to take this C-clamp and I was going to basically screw this to my table right on here, but I think this will give us better lighting this way. I don't need to. It's balancing pretty good. It's not going to fall over on me. So let's start at the head and we'll work our way back to the tail. I think we're going to do it that way. So this is the fun and creative part of it. So really isn't any steps that we need to worry about, except for that we don't want this clay in this wing to dry. We've got epoxy sculpt in here and we don't want that to set on us before we get all our wing in place. So what we're going to do right here is, now when this bird dries in a day or two, we're going to come back and we're going to cut this wire off right here before it goes into the fox's mouth. But the reason I like to have that wire there, just like that, you can open that up and you can take a clothespin. Now 2 days is the max, otherwise you're going to leave a big pinch mark right here with this clothespin. You know, depending on your humidity and things like that. It's going to leave a pinch mark in your feathers if you leave it on there any longer than that. But that's going to help leave your wing open. Just see how that worked out with that clay in there. I mean, your wing open like that. And we still will have a little bit of adjustment in and out when we put this in the fox's mouth. So we can bend this, you know, this way if we need to, or down. But that wing is going to be stable, and these primary feathers are going to stay open just like this. You can preen that all you want, but by the time we go in and we push that new tail on here, we're going to have some fix-ups to do. But that's basically setting a wing. I mean, it's quick and easy as it can be. I talked about the painter's tape, you know, our masking tape. You can come in, take some of the sticky residue off it, and if you wanted to, you know, a lot of guys will put a piece of wire back in here on flying bird into the body. They'll tape these fins off, and you can put clay in there to get that nice, or not clay, but cotton batting. You can put that in there to get a nice cup to your wing if you'd like. But for this dead mount, I think this is going to serve my purpose just fine. So that part of it's done. We got this wing pinned in place. You saw that in the last part. We didn't put another wire through like we have this one on this side, because this is going to be pushed right into the fox's mouth. You won't even see that. So we got our nice tufts here looking really nice where we want. Next thing is, we had an adjustment on this neck right here, back and forth. So what I did is I just took a T-pin right there and I inserted that right up into the body of the bird right there. So we're going to keep that right there. When this goes into the fox or final touches, we can turn that head however we want, and then we'll adjust and preen these feathers right here. So the next thing is another dresser pin right here. And like I'd said in the last video, we want to close this eye up quite a bit. Just like that. One in the front corner. And I'm going to put one in the back corner here too, just to close that up. Just like that. When that dries, we're going to put just a light touch in the finishing process of a little bit of pink red around the bottom of there. And I think that's going to do us. What I meant by in the bottom of there is right on this little band right here, this white. We're just going to give that a little bit of color for the artistic effect of, like I said, in taxidermy. I know in the fish market, color sells, so it only takes a minute to do that. We'll do that in the final touches. So that's that. We're going to leave the beak just like that. It doesn't need to be closed up. A lot of times you can take a rubber band or tape if you want to close that up like that, but I like it just open like that. Looks good. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to snip off this head wire now. What we're going to do is we're going to push the skull back up a little bit. That way we can take a little bit more wire than what's exposed right here, and it'll drop down and it'll hide all our wire without cutting these combs, these feathers right here off of this grouse. So get right in there, okay? And push this up just a little bit, just like that. And we're gonna nip that off. Well, maybe we're not. There it is. Safety glasses first. All right, we got it. It'll drop to where we want. In the final preening, we're going to go in and we can get this comb to set the way we want. Kind of happy with that, the way it's coming out, just like that. That'll work out really good. The same thing on the skull. If you needed to, if you want your feathers in a certain place, you could spend hours going in here, and you could stick these T-pins in here like this, and you could raise this up a lot higher if you wanted to. You could spend all day playing with these feathers. If you wanted those to stay up, you could do something like that. You could piss around with them forever. But it gives you the basic idea of what we got going on here. So, okay, we got the wing done. I'm happy with the preening we did here. This back wing is anchored in place. We got our ruffs looking really nice. We got a nice fat head. I like with the little bit extra cotton and the clay right down in here that filled in this head area really nice. And I can't stress enough, use reference pictures. I mean, it'll help you on no matter what type of taxidermy you do. If you're setting a deer eye, if you're mounting a bird, standing, flying, dead mount, painting a fish, action of a fish, positioning of a fish when they're swimming, how open the mouth is or closed, how the gills are. It's all reference. I mean, every day you study wildlife, you'll learn. And it's still, after 40 years, you learn something new all the time. What I'm doing here is just a little bit of preening, just getting things in place. We're going to drop these feet down a little bit. Okay, we got that one down. I showed you in the last one, we cut the wires off already on these, so we can just wiggle these down a little bit. We have no exposed wires, just like that. And when they're in the fox's mouth, we can still adjust these. It's going to be 2 or 3 days before these set, and that's pretty good, just like that. All right, and we'll go do whatever we want to do, however these are going to curl when they dry. When we take this wing wire off, we can address that situation when we get to it. But anyways, I stuck these little dresser pins up on top of there. I told you when we took this tail off of here, what those are for. They were just basically spotters for I got 2 holes right here in the back of this mannequin that I marked for wire. Okay, there's one right here. One on that side. And one on that side. And I just pre-drilled those with a 3/32 drill bit. So that way, I go put my tail in there. Okay, for all you rookies, and maybe for myself, we probably don't want to put it in like this, right? All right, so we're going to line up the holes here. Okay, that one dropped right in there. One wire there. And let's see, where's the other one at? Right there. Basically, all we did here is we just took a piece of mechanics wire, and when this tail dried, we pulled it off that foam. We just put a piece of mechanics wire, made basically a rainbow out of it, and we just hot glued it to the tail is all we did. So this is, I was telling you about our preening and all of that. We're gonna be pushing on this bird, and we're gonna have to go adjust feathers again. But we're gonna get that pushed right in there, just like that. All right, I'm just gonna see how that's gonna lay. They might have to go in a little farther. Yep. It's going to come together really nice. Just a little bit of patience here. We're going to try and do this without having a big gray transition right here, and that's the trick of doing this. You got to push it in far enough to close the gap without doing damage. So that's why I like the pre-drill with my wire. Feel that wire going in there now. Perfect. Now with gravity on a dead mount, it's usually sagging, towards earth, not up in the air. As natural as we can get it. So we're just going to bend that a little bit, just like that. And we're going to let that dry just like that for a day or two, and then we'll come back, and after we get it in the fox's mouth, we'll do our final preening. But that's going to work out really good. And then wires in there that when this dries, this is going to, when this skin dries here, this will cure out really nice. So basically that's where we're at. That's what we're going to do. I'm happy with that. Maybe just a hair more. Anchor that in there a little better. There we go. Let's just put this in here for support. Just a piece of wire. We'll put another one in there till this dries. Nope, I think it'll go. Here, let's try a T-pin. Like I said, you can heat these up with a torch, but and it'd slide right into that foam mannequin a lot easier. But I only got so many hands at this stage trying to do this.
Usually it's mounted to a table.
Yeah. Usually the stand is anchored to the table. There we are. Just like that. I think I'm happy with that. Do some final preening when this goes in the fox's mouth right here to hide all these feathers, and we're gonna get rid of this over here too. That won't be a problem. But I'm not gonna play with it anymore until that tail dries up. The skin starts to dry. So anyways, kind of see what's going on here. Just gonna preen that a little bit. And like I said, a day or two, this will be ready to pop into the old Mr. Red Fox's mouth. His fresh dinner. So I hope you learned something from this. Just commercial taxidermy, you know, nothing fancy, some cheaper material costs. I mean, right down to reusing the painter's tape, you know, so save a buck here, save a buck there. In a taxidermy studio, it makes a big difference on your bottom line. And if you can find a shortcut to save some time and save a buck, I guess that's the name of the game. So anyways, there it is. Thanks for watching.